So I left off at Joe, Joe the pastor. He's telling us his testimony. He tells us that one of the focuses of his organization, Project 417, is rebuilding the community, and with all the things that happen, like gang wars and drugs and human trafficking. The place specifically is Regent Park, and it was weird. It was weird walking around in Regent Park because clearly there were parts of it where you look at one side of the street and they're doing construction, they're trying to rebuild, and the other side of the street is real run down, and it was real apparent. They were rebuilding. There were parts of it that were really, really nice, and then there were parts that were left. And then the parts that were left were the people that have always lived there. And so Joe had a cry in his heart. He had a calling to help those people, to rebuild, to not leave those people hanging. And man, him and his organization, they do something awesome. They focus on human trafficking, like I said, and lo and behold, we ended up working with that. We ended up helping and doing ministry with that, which was it was crazy. It was something that you can't really wrap your head around. And when he was wow, that was cool. When he was telling us about the housing that we were staying in, he was kind of explaining to us about the houses and stuff, and the girls ended up staying in a safe house. It was a house that just a safe house for for trafficking victims. And man, here's the thing: there were 14 girls, and there were 4 boys. 14 girls in one house was an experience, and 14 girls in a safe house was a whole nother experience. It was a very weird thought going into that. I mean, for me especially, and for me to be so passionate about it. There were a lot of things that we had to be careful of. We couldn't take pictures outside the house. We couldn't talk about where it was. We couldn't, if we were in a big group, we wouldn't stand in front of the house. We would kind of, be away from it. And I remember walking into the house with the girls, and the air was heavy. And for me, I walked in there and I just wanted to cry. You guys know me. I'm not a softie. It takes a lot for me to cry, but I walk in there and the air is heavy. And just thinking about the people that had stayed in that house, and thinking about the people that were going to stay in the house, thinking about what they've gone through and how broken they must have been. So one of my friends, Chantel, was like, "Hey, we should pray." We were all on the same page, and we're standing in the middle of this house, all 14 of us in a circle, just praying. God, pray for this house. We pray for the people. We pray for the things that we didn't know you had in store for us, but obviously God was calling, and we were there. We were there responding. And man, just after that, after Joe telling us that about how dangerous the neighborhood was, about the girls staying in a safe house, about all that, like, my expectations of this trip were just like, I didn't even know where they were anymore. And it was good. It was really cool. At first I walked in the house and I was really scared, because of the neighborhood we were in and just the things that Joe had told us. And after we prayed, it wasn't a safe house anymore. I wasn't afraid anymore. I wasn't scared of hanging out there. That place turned into home for us. But I'll explain later what happens with that. So we stay there. That's where we stayed. I just thought that was cool. I just wanted to share that with you. Stayed in the safe house. And so then for 3 days, we did ministry. We did ministry every day, but there's a break in that, and I'll explain later. But for 3 days, we lived in that house. The girls did. There were 2 working toilets and 1 shower. And 14 girls with 1 shower and 2 toilets is very interesting. But we made it work. 14 girls in one house is just rough in general. But I think it was a lot of fun. I mean, I had fun. But yeah, we stayed in the house. I'm sorry, I keep looping. Stayed in the house for 3 days. We did ministry. It was cool. We did street ministry. So literally what we did, we went out to the streets and we played music in the middle of downtown Toronto or in the middle of malls and street corners. It was cool. And if people would come up and talk to us, we would talk to them, and it'd be awesome sharing Jesus and sharing the love that He has for us. And then we kind of split it up, so half the teams would go do music and half the teams would go out and street evangelize. And man, that was that was a really cool experience. I mean, I've done it before, but in an English-speaking country, it felt a little more intimidating. I don't know why. Probably because when I say something, they understand what I'm saying, and I don't know. Maybe that might have been it, but it's definitely different. And man, it was cool. I mean, I had some cool conversations. I started a conversation with a lady who was feeding birds on our lunch break, and it was really cool. I remember my friend, the first day we went out, we didn't pray about it. We didn't pray about finding people. We were just like, okay, we're going to go out, we're going to pray about what we're doing, but we're just going to do it. The first day was cool. It was the first day. What could you really expect? And then the second day, my friend Inga, one of my great friends now, she goes, hey, we should probably pray about meeting people. So we did. So Inga and I and the rest of the group were praying, and God just like threw people at us. It was cool. It was, yeah. I ended up approaching the lady with the birds, and she was just feeding the birds on her lunch break, and she asked us what we were doing, and I was like, yeah, we're hanging out, playing music, loving Jesus, and kind of just sharing Jesus' love with people. And she goes, yeah, it's really important that I feel like, with the world being so messed up, we need that. And it's really good what you guys are doing. And it was really cool just talking to her. Her name was Anna. And I was like, oh, that's cool. My name's Hannah. You know that. So, man, from birds. And God just put that. And then we were talking about God. And it was just the coolest thing. Then later that day, Inga and I were walking. And we were just talking about encouragement. And how we were talking about how sometimes we're passionate about things, and you do so much work and you don't see any fruit from that. But I was talking about how John was thrown into prison in Matthew 11. He was thrown into prison, and he's just like, well, got thrown into prison for doing something right. And Jesus says, hey, people are being healed because of me. The blind are seeing because of me. And we were just talking about how like you're doing better than you think you are. And this lady, Inga and I are talking back and forth. This lady just looks in. She goes, yeah. I really believe that. I really believe that sometimes you do all this work, but you kind of have to like want it. She was very new agey, so it was kind of weird. But she's like, yeah, you just have to like will it into your universe or something like that. And we were talking to her for a little bit, and we told her that we were out in the streets doing evangelism, loving Jesus, spreading music, and she's like, yeah, people would really like that, because we were kind of in the businessy part of downtown, and she goes, yeah, people would really like that. It would make their days. And we saw that. We were playing music, or I was freestyling, and people would just stand there and smile, or they would take pictures of us, and it was just really cool. And so that was ministry. Ministry days were like that. We just went out, did street evangelism. We did music, arts, dancing. People would just, be hanging out. And so that's pretty much what we had planned for a trip. I'm nearing 10 minutes again. Sorry, I talk a lot. But in the next video, I'll talk about the human trafficking side of things and what we did with that. And what ended up happening with the safe house. Yeah. So, see you in number 3. Thanks.